Welcome to Heidbangers, where I, a failed musician still living in hope of one day headlining Tea in the Park Gordon, is joined by two men that make grey hair so sexy that they make George Clooney look like a Yeti's bossack. Matty, Neil, how you doing?
I'm
I'm
all
good.
right. Aye, that's some intro. I don't want to I don't know how to break it to you, but I think Tina Park ended about 8 years ago.
It doesn't stop me dreaming. It doesn't stop me dreaming. That is the dream.
Come back.
If I can play it on the time it comes back, even better.
Aye.
I'll dream. We'll dream.
I'll put myself forward as a failed musician as well. By the way, I'd
Split hairs.
once upon a time dreamt of playing Tea in the Park too, but didn't get anywhere close to it. Never played any gigs, in fact. So there you go.
Well, at least I played a
So,
couple, so
Miles off it.
in the step further.
So Matty, just to how much of a failed musician were you that you never actually did anything?
Well, we had a band, right? So as you can take yourself back to peak Britpop era.
Aye.
We had a
I
band.
think I was in your band.
You
Me and
might
my
be.
mates are the same. Aye.
Two of my flatmates were the guitarist and the bass player. They were the talent in the band. Drummer was all right, and I was a singer. I can't sing. So they carried on their band for a wee while after. I think it's stopped now, but for a good few years they carried on. But I very quickly kind of took the hint that I was the weak point in the band and just sort of stepped aside.
Yeah.
Too much for the team.
I just used to say to me and my mates that again at the height of Britpop and that, everybody was in a band anyway. We just used to say I've been in a band. I remember being at Oddfellows one night and there was all these girls in the doorway. They were like, we're in a band. We've just been recording with Oasis down in Wales, and they were like, sing us a song. And one of my mates was like, if Picasso was here, would you ask him to paint your fucking kitchen? But
Great response. That's rock and roll.
Crashed and burned.
On that note, I'm grateful for the time that I did have in my band. That wasn't forced or rehearsed at all. I just wedged that in there.
Because you were a real life band and not like my made up band. That's what you're saying.
well, real life band for a wee while. We go to some places, but that's our topic for discussion tonight is gratitude. We've done a few relatively somber topics recently, and I felt it was quite good to go into something a bit more positive and upbeat. And I think gratitude, for me anyway, has been a big game changer. I've spoken in the past around meditation and mindfulness, and gratitude's a massive part of that, and being thankful for what you have, and all the stuff that we take for granted, stuff that people never really stop to think about, like having a roof over your head, every meal that you have, being able to breathe. You know what I mean? Even to that level, if you stop and think that I'm grateful for all this stuff, it can have a really positive effect on you. So that's the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. And I'd be interested to hear, as part of the discussion, both sides in terms of what you're grateful for and stories about that people have been grateful for stuff that you've done for them in the past, because I think that makes a massive difference as well to your life. Like, we do stuff sometimes selfishly, which is all right, sometimes unselfishly, and it can make a big difference to people's lives and to your life, and it all stems for gratitude. So Neil, I don't know, in terms of from a gratuity perspective, if you've got any anecdotes. You on the spot?
No. When I was even a few years ago when I was in counselling, I don't know, I had sort of 2 counselling sessions on the go, which you're not supposed to do because they tell you the same thing, the same message, but in different ways. So it's I can't remember which one it was they told me basically, but they were like, you need, I was struggling at the time. They were like, you need to think what you're grateful for. I was like, I'm grateful for nothing, eh? So what's the point in that? But as a thing where they were make a list of stuff and then try and get 3 things a day you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be big things. Just be small things, and it could be daft and that, and then it build up and build up. And I've got now an app on my phone where I'll take a note of stuff and then try and reflect on it at the end of each day what I've been grateful for. And it is stuff it can be the smallest and silliest of stuff, like the bus being on time. They've ever been good. Do you know what I mean? That thing when you're you're going to your work and it's been raining, but it's no music that you listen to. I'll always have something that I'm listening to, even coming to laugh in my mates with you guys and stuff like that. And it sort of builds up and it makes you realise that there is probably more that we're grateful for than what we realise. But that's just taking like practice, and it's funny because like recently I've been like feeling that a bit, so I've not been doing it as much, and then today I made a conscious effort to like take a look, and I think I got up to about like 20 things that I was grateful for. There's probably been more than that throughout the day, but at least that way you sort of like appreciate. It's just getting used to like appreciating things, and it's like I probably say that on here that like grand designs. I love grand designs, but it's not like the big reveal of the house at the end. It's like the doorknobs and stuff like that, and the fittings that make up the big reveal. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's like the wee things that sort of make up like a worthwhile picture for what you've got.
Mm-hmm. See, like when you're doing that, all the little things, how does it make you feel? Because I feel like when I do it, it does make a difference to my mood. Like it puts things in like it's that perspective thing that goes along with gratitude, right?
Totally. And it is like, and you can be like, and it can be stuff, and it's not even being patronising, but like you'll see people, like probably I'll see people on a daily basis for which we're more like fortunate than. Do you know what I mean? And it is that thing like how lucky you are, and you hear stories and stuff like that. People being ill or people being like, like less fortunate than you. So it's like it makes you appreciate things a lot more, but no like in a patronising way. Do you know what I mean? Just like, well, I've not got as much as other people. I've got more than like most people, so need to be grateful for that.
Is it something you catch yourself doing naturally, though? Like for either of you, is to being grateful, or do you have to make a conscious effort? Do you know what I mean? I think there's definitely times where I can look at a situation and just go, oh, fuck, that's no me. Or, I'm lucky I've got what I've got.
Aye.
I very rarely go and, like you said there, Neil, about making a list of, why things would be good or what I should be grateful for. But I catch myself doing it a lot.
I definitely. I think making a list
catch
helps.
Myself doing it a lot. But out, by the way, that could be applied to anything.
For which you're grateful for.
Yes.
But and it's when I've not been making a list recently, then my mood's definitely dipped, and it's like, what is it? Do you know what I mean? What's the stuff that's like driving me? And it's like your values in that as well, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? What values do you have that you're grateful for living by? But yeah, so like it's one of those things that I can maybe spend throughout the day, maybe like half an hour, if that. Like even before I came on here, I was just typing up stuff. And but like I could, if I'm not doing that, I could be like scrolling, like looking up nonsense on my phone, and that's not going to be as rewarding as what that's going to be. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the sort of purpose that you get from that, like making that like a small effort just to appreciate stuff is far better than me just like looking up like nonsense on social media. Do you know what I mean?
So I've got like certain triggers, I think, that make me think about it. So I suppose that is sort of naturally rather than forced. But I do feel that I do need to force that action in my head sometimes to take stock when I'm feeling a bit shit. But like so like when I say triggers, like sometimes it'll be like watching a TV show or a film or something like that where something happens to like a kid in it or something, and you're like, fucking hell, if that happened to my kids a came out of day, and then you think, and I actively, consciously think, I'm really grateful that they're healthy and all that kind of stuff. And like music and that as well, like lyrics and music and stuff, like certain songs, I'm really big at listening and trying to find the meanings of songs when I listen to them. And it like, obviously music can be interpreted all different ways, but I always try and take something for it and go right and apply that to my life and go right, well, this and this, or I'm grateful for this because that's kind of triggered in my head because I listened to that song. So I suppose but I do sometimes think that I do have to actively think about everything I'm grateful for, and like, but when I'm doing meditation, there is like I always do a part where you basically just say I'm grateful for over and over in your head, and you let it organically come to you, and whatever comes into your head. And sometimes it's just stupid things you never even thought you were grateful for. Totally. And I don't know, like if it's you have to force it, because I wonder is like if sometimes like I maybe get a wee bit too deep here, but as a society we're quite selfish in a way, and I think we take things for granted, like massively. Everything that we've got, like technology, the infrastructure around us, like even things like your NHSs and all the rest of it, like, so many things that we just have been so used to and we think that they're entitled to, and that we take for granted, that I think it's kind of born into us almost as a general society, that we didn't have to be grateful for these things, that they're just kind of there. So I and again, this is me talking about me. Other people might be different, and I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I think we're kind of conditioned to that way, and like I say, I have to kind of forcibly remind myself what I'm grateful for more than I would like to, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys find something similar, or it's just me.
To build on that, I think the other thing we do in society is we compare ourselves against other people. And I know this isn't like a social media episode, and we'll probably cover it at some point, but people put up like their perfect lives online. And it's very easy to kind of compare yourself to what other people have got. Even if it's no online, you're looking, you might not have the best car in the street, or the best house in the street, or the nicest garden, or when you go to work, the best football team, or some of us do. But like all those things that are like a sort of an unspoken benchmark that you should be pushing towards, and there's like a pressure for you to be always improving and always like pushing forward and be ambitious, and like to have a bigger house or a nicer car or have more money or to go on a nicer holiday, and all those things I think can make it difficult to be grateful, because you spend a lot of the time focusing on the stuff that you don't have or can't have. And going back to what you say, Gordon, about being selfish, when you put the two of them together, it actually makes being grateful like quite a difficult thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because there's a lot of things that recently I've been really struggling with in terms of, like, well, money for one, right? And everybody's struggling to a certain extent with money, and you're thinking, like, stress that it's caused me, where, like, I'm still going on holiday this year, I've still got a nice car, I've got a nice house, but like I can pay the bills, but we can't do the stuff that we did before because of the price everyone's went up. So obviously everybody's lost a bit of money, and you're just like, oh, we can't go to the cinema the night, or we can't go and get a takeaway or anything. And it does, like, piles up and kind of stresses you out, but you have to, like, take stock and think. And I have this conversation with my missus often. I'm like, we're stressed about it, and we can only deal with what we can deal with, but you've got to think about everybody else out there that's a lot worse off than us. So, and then that leads into the whole, like, you've got to be grateful for what we've got, and you have to realise what we've got, and we've got to be thankful for it. And it really does, again, the perspective of that. And you're saying about comparing to everybody else, is comparing on the level of we need to get better cars and that, but there's also the comparison to people that aren't, like the people that would try to get across on a boat to get away from getting shot and their family blown up and all the rest of it. Like, we're not at that level. And again, you can only deal with you and your family. You've always got to do what's best for you and your family, and that, to a certain extent. But I think people just need to try and take stock a little bit and put things into perspective and be grateful for what they've got, because it does make a big difference to even just your mental health. If you want to do it for selfish reasons or whatever, perfectly fine, because it does make a difference. It makes you think, actually, I'm doing all right here. I've got a lot of stuff and I should be thankful. I've worked hard for it, and or whatever, but I should be thankful that I've got my health, I've got the stuff that I need, my family are relatively happy, or really happy, or whatever it may be. And just, that kind of perspective side of stuff. So they're just, it's you try not to make too many comparisons with too many people, because you could go down a rabbit hole. But I think where it's applicable and where it kind of helps your mood and your mindset, I think it's a relatively healthy thing to do.
The perspective thing's massive, like, and particularly for keeping yourself in a good space when you start to feel like something's bothering you. Like, if you're angry about something, I'll give like an example. I remember a time where, like bonus time at your work comes in, everybody looks forward to it all year, and there was a workplace I was at where the bonuses that year were going to be shit or non-existent, and everybody was kind of up in arms about it. I felt like really pissed off as well. Like, you knock your pan in all year, and you get this, it's like a real sucker punch. But then I was speaking to somebody else who was like, I mean, like, on a fraction of the wage that I get, they're struggling to get by, and you think, I'm moaning because I've not got over and above what I normally get, like, as a bonus, and here's somebody that's also knocking their pan in, also doing like a hard day's work, but you know, they're not even kind of, they've not got what I've got, and that side of things, and you start to think about how much of a right have I got to be kicking off about this here? Do I need to just have a wee word with myself, and then is it really worth getting annoyed about? And actually, how much I can't do? Look, if I was to go moan about this to that person, what would they be thinking about me for it? And it's very easy to then kind of use that to just sort of change your mood around and kind of accept the situation that you've got and go, actually, it's no ideal. Don't have to be happy about it, but I can accept it because the alternative could have been a lot different.
No, I think that's a valid point. I think I know this isn't like a football stroke Hibs thing, but I know like a few years ago when I was struggling, I wasn't grateful. I felt like I wasn't grateful for anything. You start like appreciating things. I didn't let like football scores or like stuff like that get to me as much as what I used to. I know it's like I was like I've done my bit, support them by seeing to getting that, and that's it. But I think that made me you sort of like appreciate stuff, because if all you've got to worry about is like your team getting beat, or do you know what I mean, stuff like that, you're doing all right. Do you know what I mean? And I think that made me like quite grateful for what I've got. But you can just like sort of do your bit, support, and step away when things get too much. And I think it's that sort of realisation, definitely. You know, there are things that are important in life, and there's things that aren't important in life. We need to be grateful for the stuff that is important in life.
It's that prioritisation a wee bit as well, isn't it? Like, because you do that with what you say though is important. When we said right at the start that the small things and being grateful for the small things can amount to quite a big thing as well. But I think it does all kind of relate when I say like money and your health and all that kind of stuff is they're the big things in your life that when you're thinking about being thankful, that the other kind of things that you should probably prioritise in terms of being thankful. Yeah. But it does make a big difference to be grateful for any thing. Like I say, when I'm meditating, it's the amount of things that come into my head that I'm grateful for I would never have thought. It's just like I'm grateful for that. What? Like it just if you can train yourself to get your subconscious kind of bring that out. It's really interesting. Actually, I'd recommend trying it. I was going to ask is I've got a story. I suppose it's being the thankful side of giving something to someone else and them being grateful for that, and then how that makes you feel. Because we went a walk up at I forgot the name of the place already. It's just up past McMurray. It's just a wooded walk area we've done a couple of times with the dogs. So me and the missus and the wee man went on Sunday. We go walking every Sunday in the morning usually at some point, and we're walking around and it was all muddy and everything, and there was like this older group, like two women and a guy with their dogs. I went past us and I went away ahead because we were the wee man and we've got a wee pug who's slow as stoat, so and try to get through the mud. And there was the wee man went in front of me and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" Picked it up and it was somebody's phone in a case, and it just like sat there, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like it's got like full battery. It looks like it's no sat there for a while. It was just sitting in the mud." I was like, "I bet it's safe folk in front of us." So we end up like detouring our walk because there's like different routes you can go to try and catch up with them. And we've seen them in the distance, and the wee man was like, he was desperate to go, "I'll take it to him, I'll go and ask them." I was like, "Right, you go, take it ahead." Took the phone and he ran, and he was like, he went quite far and shouting on them. And it was the guy that was with him, his phone, and he was fair away. He was, "Oh, thanks, son," and everything. And we were kind of a distance, and they're waving to us, and, "Oh, thanks very much." And wee man came back, big beaming smile on his face, running back to us, like saying, "It was his phone. It was his phone." And I said to him, "Oh, like how did that make you feel, like getting that back?" And just like interesting. I could tell, obviously, but I was just interested to hear his answer. And he was like, "Yeah, really good." Like I was like, "That's your good deeds for the day." And he was like, "Oh, I want to do good deeds every day." And it just like made his day. And he went and he was saying that in school the day he'd been off for 2 weeks for the Easter holidays, and they asked him like what he got up to on Easter holiday, and that's what he said, that I found a man's phone and I gave it back to him, and he was really happy, and that made me really happy. And it's just like I thought that was just like a brilliant wee story to show like giving something to somebody, even though it was the guy's anyway, but like giving it back to him and seeing how thankful for it he was, just made his day, like my wee man's day, made my day, my wife's day. And it's just, yeah, like I don't know if you've got any stories where you've kind of give something to somebody and it's made you feel that way.
I think probably the best or the most powerful example for me is the stuff that's kind of spawned off the podcast. Like, I mean, we're all in a WhatsApp group, so we wouldn't have known each other at all if it wasn't for the podcast. I don't think. Fate might transpire other ways, but Neil, you mentioned like one of our mutual friends, and actually a mutual friend that we only know because of the podcast, who cited the podcast and getting him to do something to sort his mental health out. And wee things like that are amazing. Like, you've no idea how good that makes you feel when somebody says, by the way, what you did there made a difference to me. It's like, on a fairly significant level. We I don't know how many people are in our group, but they all feel like close friends. And that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for just doing it like a wee thing. Like, there wasn't much to start a WhatsApp group, to be fair. It's not like I've had to climb Mount Everest and flog my guts out or anything. Just plug in phone numbers into a wee group. But when somebody says to you, takes you aside and he says, by the way, what you did there was made a big difference to me. It's like an unreal feeling, to be honest. Makes you feel great.
I can imagine.
And it is good, but that, as you say, it's not like a big thing that you've, like the podcast and that, but like setting up a WhatsApp group's not that hard, but it's the smaller things, you know what I mean? Maybe thinking, I need to like create a big network of folk and I need to get people to manage it and stuff like that. It's like, just set up a WhatsApp group and get numbers at, and then people take care of it themselves. But now I know, like, and I hate to like talk about charity stuff and that, but I know like stuff that I've done for like changing room, and again, no football related, but Hibs Community Foundation, and there is that thing where you don't do it. And I'll be like, for Gordon, for like the podcast you've done, Matty podcast that you've done in that as well. You don't do it specifically so you get like a pat on the back. Do you know what I mean? Like thinking, I'm definitely going to like change somebody or that. But so you do it and you just put it out there and see what happens. But it's like when you hear stories come back and it's like you're like quite overwhelmed. You're like, that I never really thought that would be that. You know what I mean? So, and you do feel grateful for that you've maybe had an impact, a positive one on somebody who was feeling negative at the time. So it's good, like, to sort of keep that going, I think.
You've done so much with the changing room, Neil. Like, the amount of stuff you've done with that, and I've seen, like, even on Twitter, the amount of people that have said like your involvement and the stuff that you've helped along the way has made such a difference to people. Like, it seems like there's a lot of gratitude out there for you and what you've done for the changing room.
And it's just like, it's been like really good. Like, me and Dave Thompson, that like working away, both had like similar ideas, joined up, and it's just that thing, what can you do to help people if you give up a bit of your time? Do you know what I mean? Like on a Monday night, it's only like about probably 2 hours a month, maybe like before a game, if you do it before a game, maybe like a couple hours. But it just gives people the chance to do something that they normally wouldn't be doing, or even like going on Christmas Day and volunteering that. Like you sort of like, you take for granted. Like, you could have Christmas Day with your family and friends and stuff, but not everybody's got that. So to give people that chance, you take it for granted, like the WhatsApp group that we've got, for instance, and you guys will be in other WhatsApp groups as well, where like, and you've got like connections where you could say, right, I could like tell somebody how I'm feeling, and what it's like another one in that, if people aren't feeling great, they'll say it, they'll have loads of support, and they'll get loads of people messaging them directly, what it's like. But not everybody's got that, do you know what I mean? It's just like, right, how can you encourage people to like sort of feel better about themselves, and again, just to like appreciate what there is, and give them that sort of support and understanding to help them sort of push on, because I've been there with like, you're struggling with that and you feel quite isolated and alone, and I hate that feeling. So it's good to sort of try and push people and encourage them in like a productive manner.
Do you remember to take a step back and assess what you've done, or think about what you've done, Neil, with that kind of thing, and give yourself the recognition?
It's hard, and like, I know me and Dave were talking about, actually, there was one time we were going along, I phoned him and we were going along Easter Road, and I can't remember what night it was, and I was like, I feel like really overwhelmed, like, have we done too much, are we doing too much? and it's like, nah, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. It was probably like a turning point for like saying that, like, we have, like, I think I'm doing too much. It's weird because you don't do it. And I've said it before as well, like when you're in, like, we do it Easter Road and stuff like that. And again, I didn't want this to be, because I really want to do like music, mental health and stuff like that. And mental health shouldn't just be about football and that, but because it's an Easter Road, it's funny because you're in an environment which is performance and result driven, but you can't have like something like the changing room and the other ones around other teams and that as well, where they need so many people to come in the door and like so many people to say, oh, you've saved my life, because it's never like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's that thing where like, where you can be like grateful for what you've done and proud of what you've done. You can't like say, it's not like, you know, the actual numbers of like people that you've helped or the impact that you've had. Does that make sense? It'll be like you guys were like doing stuff on podcasts and that. You can like get the viewing figures, but you still don't know the full impact that what you've had on people. You like entertaining them, making them laugh, making them cry. Do you know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing to judge. It's just like, as long as you've done it and you're hoping it's got a benefit for somebody in that, and then people will get a benefit from it, then I think it's all right. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you can't like take stock and take that step back and think, and if you do think about it and think, oh, I've done a really good thing there, that then you're kind of making it like selfish, if you see what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it gets like complicated in your head where you're like, because when I like the Melon podcast and stuff, it was just purely because I love music and I love talking about mental health, and it was just like I loved talking about it, and I just wanted to talk to other people. If it helps people on the way, great, but it wasn't until like I want to help 10 people and I want them to tell me they've helped. I've helped 10 people. It's never been anything like that. But then I feel like sometimes they've rationalized, because you feel almost like, because there've been loads of people, and Matty, you've had it, and you've had it with the changing room, come at you and say, like, you've done a really great thing there and you've really, really helped. And then sometimes you feel like a bit, it's not like, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but I felt like kind of semi-embarrassed where you feel, I don't know, it's great, I've helped you and stuff, but I'm not doing it for the adulation, if you see what I mean.
Aye, no, totally. I get that.
I think that's where like modesty comes in, isn't it? Like that, you do feel quite humble, and I know exactly what you mean, Gordon. Like that's not why you do it, and you never set out for, you know, if I put this out, I hope somebody comes and shakes my hand in 2 years' time or anything like that. It's not in your thoughts at all. And then when it does happen, you'll be a bit like sort of taken aback, I think. Yeah, I think
totally.
It can be quite difficult to know how to react in that situation.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, I've found it like awkward, I suppose, in a way. No, obviously it's great to get that. Like, it does make you feel good. Like we talked about when you do something nice for someone. But yeah, like when you're, I don't know if that's like, again, we're going to like social media and stuff like that in society just now, like there's so many people out there that are so fake, and they're just doing stuff to get likes and to get a big following, and then try and make money off of stuff and that. And like, and I've always said that any podcast I ever do, I've no interest in making any money from any of it. Like,
that's just as well in this one.
no that I ever would be in a position that I would, but it's just like there's just so much out there just now that I don't know. Sometimes you just feel like, does somebody think that I'm just doing this because I want to get like likes on Twitter or Instagram or something like that? And I don't know. You probably shouldn't feel that way, but it does sometimes happen.
And I think it's a society for which you live in. I know, like when I was like on Twitter and that previously, struggling, and I started like talking about my mental health, I found it really like I was struggling to like respond to what people would say and all that, and people would like, there was times that people would be quite like open about like their own experiences within like, what was it, 280 characters or whatever. I was like, how did I apply to that, eh? Do you know what I mean? What emoji did I put that'll like sum that up? And it's like, and even now, like people, I'll be saying stuff like, thanks, and like stuff like that, and it's like, but what? It's just a bit weird, eh? It's a bit weird, and it is that thing, you do it, and I think we're probably the same. We'll do it, and we'll just leave it, and that's it. I'll just leave it, and if people like respond to it, fair play. People get anything from it, that's good. but I wouldn't be sitting there thinking, right, I've poured my heart out. I've talked about like feeling suicidal and low and depressed. I'm hoping I get 10 likes. Or you know what I mean? Because if I get 9, I'm a failure. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, just put out there. And if it's like, you can't be, and I always said that again, I know it's been talking a lot about the changing. There's loads of different, like, not just football and stuff like that. But I remember when we were doing it, and they were like, we need to try and get numbers through the door. And I was like, but imagine if there's like a Hibs fan and they're in Australia, so they're not going to come over Easter Road for it. But imagine they're thinking, right, I can relate to this. I'm going to do something over there. So you'll never actually know that impact. Do you know what I mean? And even like if you think about Matty, it was you that got in contact with me initially about getting like stuff like that on long bangers and that. It was off your own back. Do you know what I mean? There was never like there was no ulterior motive or that. Do you know what I mean? That you were like, right, let's just try and get like social media likes. It was like, let's just try and do something. And it was probably, if you think about when that was, it was like ahead of the curve for where things are. Does that? I don't know. Like, I hate the whole fact that people are like mental health is trend. It can be like a trendy thing, but it was sort of like a way ahead of that where you were like, right, let's talk about it, and then like got a conversation. You know what I mean? And then other people were on and stuff like that, and but that was way ahead before like people were doing it. I think for that. Do you know what I mean? It was still quite an uncomfortable topic, I think, for me. Does that make? I don't know if that makes sense because it was like a few years ago, but that was probably like they're still like we were probably like in the last thrones it being like a stigma attached to it for men. You were like, let's just come and talk about it before you know what you had other folk. You know what I mean? And then, nice, that's like something you should be proud of, I think.
So it was a cool thing that you were doing. And I was like, how can you help? That was it. That was kind of, yeah, my logic behind it was, could you get him a hand? And that was it. Yeah, it was interesting. Did you ever?
Sorry, you go. No, you go.
Do you ever find it difficult to be grateful? Do you know, like if we're talking about gratitude, and because you know, like you talking about earlier in the episode about making a conscious effort and stuff like that, and I think it'll come easy to some people because they'll have a lot to be grateful for.
Right.
Are there times where you think, I will be grateful today? Do you know, like you mentioned, Neil, when you were feeling low, like you struggled with that. How did you get past it?
It's just like taking a moment again just to reflect and stuff like that. And I went through days like religiously, like every day, even if I was on holidays and stuff like that, I would do like doing things that I was grateful for and things that I was proud of that I'd done as well. But then just recently you sort of lose track of that. And I definitely felt it was impacting my mental health. So it was one of those things where it was like, right, if I can start doing that again, write it down, reflect, then I can see what I have been grateful for. And it means that it's maybe not been as bad as what I thought it was, the stuff that was, you know, like stuff that you're doing. Because everybody's going through different situations and scenarios. But if you can try and find the positive, and I know it's hard, people will be listening that like you don't like patronise and be condescending, but there will be like times, even when the days are dark, you'll be able to find like that shining glimmer of light through the clouds. And it's just that wee thing, you know, you just build it up. So it was just that need for like, I suppose, like thinking when I was doing it, I was feeling quite good mental health-wise. So let's try and do that again to see if that'll help me.
How about you, Gordon?
I do. I suppose it's like, so like the example you used earlier with your like bonuses at work and stuff like that. That's similar sort of like being peed off with not getting the bonus that I wanted or didn't get a bonus at all and stuff like that. And then I kind of I've toed and froed with, I suppose, with the gratitude side of stuff, because I start thinking, like you were saying, actually I'm lucky to be getting what I'm getting. I shouldn't really feel that way, but then at the same time, and then I turn it. Sometimes depending on the mindset that you're in, you're like, no, I can't wait a minute. Like I've worked hard, and I was promised I would get this, and this company I work for are making billions. Like the CEO's getting £5 million bonus. Why am I not getting a bonus? I got told I did a great job. Like things like that. And you're still no, like I shouldn't just be grateful. Like I've done it, and it happens quite a lot. And it's things like even things like I'm not going to get political, but when there's things like you try to get a doctor's appointment, and I think the NHS is brilliant. I mentioned it earlier, absolutely fantastic. We're so lucky to have it, and what's going on with it right now is a fucking disgrace. But you try to get a doctor's appointment, you can't get through. You can't get an appointment. You eventually get through, and you're told that it's 2 months or a month before you can get a appointment, or phone back to get an emergency one. It's like, well, it's not an emergency. All this kind of stuff, and then you do get through. And the last couple of times, it's been a nurse on the phone, and they'll phone you back later. You can't get to see anybody, and it's things happening with my wife and everything. And you're just like, I'm grateful for the NHS and that, but I'm paying a lot of money in tax. I'm paying a lot of money in my national insurance. A lot of people are like, there's supposed to be a service here, and it's no there. And it's that kind of thing. Like I do sometimes struggle, and I think I don't know if that's. I kind of think that's healthy in a way. Like you can't just keep going through life, and it is important to be grateful, right? This is the whole point of us talking about this, and it's important to take stock and put things into perspective. But as part of that perspective, there's also looking at the things that actually, like, I should be grateful to a certain extent, but doesn't mean to say we should just all bend over and take all the bad stuff too, because they're saying, well, actually, this shit thing's just happened to me, but I'm really grateful for this, so just forget about that. No, someone's done you a disservice or something like that. It's all right not to feel grateful about that. It's just that kind of perspective. So I kind of, there is a balance, I think, to gratefulness, and I walk that tightrope a bit too often, maybe. And I've had a bit like a struggle recently where I've talked about in the past where I've got really angry about stuff that I can't control, and I've had a wee bad spell with things where there was like about a week, 2 weeks ago, I was just fucking angry about everything, to be honest. No, like angry, like flipping tables there and stuff like that. I was just frustrated about everything. Like every time I looked at the fucking news, social media, like talking about money, talking about this, talking about that, couldn't get like all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of built up, and I was like, fuck this place. I want to fucking get out of here. I want to move to fucking Canada. I'm dating the kids, all the rest of it. And it just all had to come to a head. And sat down and talked to the missus, and we talked about all the stuff that we've got and put things into perspective. I'm grateful for it. So it's all right to get to that point sometimes. It's all right to get so frustrated with stuff and no feel grateful about anything, because sometimes the world just does seem a bit shit, but you just need to take that step back, as we were kind of talking about earlier, and just kind of take stock and go, oh, wait a minute, like, it's all a bit shit, and I can feel passionate about it, and I want it to change, and I want it to get better, but there's a constructive and healthy way to do that. And if I can be grateful for the stuff that I've got now and build on that, that's probably the best way to go. Easier said than done, but that's what I would recommend people do, having experienced that a couple of weeks ago. And also be grateful for things like, the thing that I'm really grateful for right now is the Co-op's salt and vinegar Chardonnay crisps. They are fucking magic, by the way.
Like, that's it, honestly, the wee silly stuff that builds it up. Like, do you know what I mean? Definitely.
Right.
And salt vinegar Chardonnay crisps. Did you sit here moaning about Tories?
I know.
I knew that was coming, but yeah, I only get them under their offer. The cheapskate that and I'm doing it at 160 or 170 or something like that sometimes, and that's for a big bag of crisps that are that good quality these days is no bad. I'm not sure you can get a big bag of Monster Munch for less than £2 these days.
Yeah, I know.
Scandalous, isn't it?
Okay, that makes it hard to be grateful for the wee things when.
The wee things cost a lot.
Costing a lot. I can get a fucking Freddo for less than 30p these days.
I know.
It is a great tool, though, eh? Like in the grand scheme of things, like you talk about things that you've got in your toolkit to kind of keep you sane, and being able to kind of just take stock. And when things are a bit shit, and you're looking and thinking, "Fuck, I wish I had this," or "I wish I had that," when you can take a wee step back and go, "Actually, here's the stuff." I was having a conversation with Josh one time. So all his pals are going away for the summer, and kind of going to Disneyland or Euro Disney, and there are these like all-inclusive holidays, and we're at home again because we couldn't afford to go on a holiday. And he was all down in the dumps about it, and I was like, listen, going mind earlier in the summer, right? So we go back a few years. I said, mind we were up at the training centre at Hibs. I said, how many of your pals got to do that? I said, you met all the players that you got a top up in the Warrior signed by all of them. Look at your photos, pull your phone out. Mind when we won the cup. and we were up at the training centre another time, and you were sat next to Darren McGregor, and he was talking you through a video or the goals that we scored in the cup run, and the goal that he scored and what it was like in the cup final. And you've got Paul Hanlon sitting behind you, and you've got David Gray in the room. How many of your pals have done that? And he was like, and you could see like total that just shift in the mood. And he went for like being on the floor, pissed off that again he wasn't getting to do what all his pals were, to being like, fuck the holidays. I've done all this stuff has been magic, and actually the stuff I've been able to do has been like money can't buy experience type things. And it's just really, really powerful. I have like wee moments like that to myself sometimes where I'm feeling just like everyone shit. You're wondering how you can just get whatever you need to get. You need a new pair of trainers or something like that. And you're going, fuck no, that's just another stress I could do without. And then you just think, actually, there's loads of stuff that I didn't have to worry about. Loads of folk do. Got healthy family, healthy kids, roof over the head. The dog stopped eating things that it shouldn't eat. Life's all right. Do you know? I can sit and play Xbox if I want to. That's all right. Didn't have to get wound up about everything.
True. Aye, very, very true. Have you ever felt like have you ever been so overwhelmed by gratitude and like being thankful that it's actually like reduced you to tears? Because there's been a couple of times where, it's not the obvious one, like sometimes I'm tucking my wee man into bed. I mean, older two teenagers and that, I did tuck them into bed anymore. So there's that thing where I quite often think, that'd be weird if I did. Although you should be able to tuck your kids in, no matter what fucking age they are.
Bedtime story.
I still open the door and say I love you, good night, and that. Like I do that. I make sure I do that. But anyway, tucking the wee man in, I'm always conscious, like for whatever reason, because I've got the older two and I know like how fast they grow up. Like taking stock and going, like he's going to high school. My wee one's going to high school next year, and just being like, oh my god. And the fact that he still wants tucked in, and he's still got his teddy that he cuddles in. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, just for whatever reason, I don't know, I was just feeling overly emotional or whatever, stucking him in, just saying goodnight and that, and just giving him an extra long cuddle, and just kind of like tears kind of came to my, just like, overwhelmed by how thankful I was for that moment. And it was like that. It was like, this is everything that I wanted for my life, is to be here with someone that I love more than anything, cuddling him in. Kind of, he wants the love, he wants the affection, I want it, and it was just one of the moments that it happens quite often, but it was that whole like just being so thankful for a person, a moment, that it just actually overwhelmed me completely.
No, I know what you mean, like, definitely. And it's good to sort of like appreciate stuff like that as well, do you know what I mean? And it's like the things that, like, because you maybe don't do that all the time, and do you take it for granted, you know what I mean, when you do it, maybe like 9 times out of 10, but it's that one time that you don't, and it's like, by the way, because like stuff changes, do you know what I mean? Like, you'll not be able to do that all the time, and it's like, right, what can just being in the moment. I remember again when I was struggling, and they were talking about like in therapy, like try and pull yourself out of the situation, and I picked up wrongly. But what I would do is like, see if you're in a situation that was really good, like we were in a restaurant in Livingston, and it was like that buffet place in Livingston, is it Hot Buffet or whatever? And it was like at that point it was just really good there, and it was like, right, give me at least 5 things which I like about that. And I was like, out with my family, I felt responsible because I was trying to like get like make sure everybody was all right, having a good laugh with folk. And it was a Saturday, so it was a weekend, so it was like at least 5 things. So if you're ever feeling down, you can just go back to it. And I'd have a note on my phone. There's like 5 things that like made that, and there'll be maybe more things that come from it as well. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing. It's sort of like when you're feeling it, taking you back to a situation for which you were grateful for. You just try to list as many things when you're in that situation, so then you can always look back and say, by the way, that was all right that day. Do you know what I mean? Let's try and have more days like that. It doesn't have to be at a restaurant or that, but what was the core benefits of it? You were off, so you were spending time with your family, you're with your family. Do you know what I mean? Having a meal and stuff like that. and it's just sort of like appreciating the things that you've got before you don't have them.
Appreciating it in the moment's a huge one, Neil. Isn't it? Like, I remember having a conversation with my pals, like the pals I grew up with at school. I couldn't tell you the last time we were all together. And at some point, it would have been the last time, and none of us knew it was the last time we were all together.
Totally.
And you have like all those moments, like you didn't care when your last hug with somebody's going to be, or you're like the last time you tuck them in, or whatever it is. You don't know when those things are coming, so it's important that you sort of enjoy them when that moment's there.
Definitely.
Definitely is. I think probably on that note, it's about time to wrap up. I'm going to sound like a really cheesy American here, but Neil, I'm grateful for you, and Mary, I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you both, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, Neil. You go.
No, I was just going to say, again, I know it's definitely not a Hibs thing and that, but we're going to have a changing room dropping in the last Monday of April, 6 o'clock at the club shop stand, Famous 5, so folk are want to come along. There'll be stuff on social media and that, but yeah, free, safe, confidential, and it is like, you do feel grateful for when you're there and stuff like that, so if you're up for it. But even if you're not Hibs fans, you can come along, but if it's not your cup of tea, just if you do need that sort of connection, then look at the stuff that's been done in your area, because there's loads of stuff to help people make them feel as grateful as what we do at the peak gratefulness, gratitude.
I still need to get myself along to one. I've been to like one before a game, but I've not been to one of
before a game.
I just every single time I plan to go, something else comes up. But
it's always there for people. Do you know what I mean? Always there for people. But I'll give a wee mention on social media and that as well.
Aye, grand. And if anybody listening to this wants to interact with us on Twitter or send us a DM or can email us at heidbangers@gmail.com. I think I've got that right. That's right, isn't it? Email address.
That's right. Yeah.
Send us anything in, because we like to hear your stories. If you want to come on and speak to us, feel free to do that as well. Even after this, if you've got any stories about being thankful or someone being thankful for what you did, send them in on social media, on Twitter at HeatbangersPod, and we'll try and get back to you and include them in our discussions, or include you in our discussions. I think it's important to note that this podcast isn't sponsored by Co-op or Monster Munch.
No.
I wish it was. That'd be fucking brilliant.
If only.
Free Chardonnay salt and vinegar crisps for a year. That'd be fucking magic. I'm going to go away and have a bowl right now. Right, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Isn't that just the way? What's that you say?